my name is Jason J. Rock Houston. You guys are listening to Destroyer 40. It's my great pleasure to welcome our special guest tonight, Tod Howarth. Tod was the original lead singer from Frehley's Comet, and now he's got a great new band that we'll be talking about called 4 by Fate. How you doing tonight, Tod?
Not bad, Jason. Not bad at all.
Now, of course, this is the 40th anniversary of the classic Kiss album from 1976, Destroyer. And I got to ask, were you much of a Kiss fan back in the day, or?
Well, you know, it's funny because I've been asked that a lot, especially by Ace.
Yeah.
And he loved my answer. You know, growing up in California, I was more into Van Halen.
Oh, okay.
You know, that type of California big rock. There were some songs they had that I thought were spectacular. I was not into the band per se. I thought their marketing and their image was brilliant, but the kind of music I listened to was entirely different.
Now, just talking a little bit about this being the 40th anniversary of Destroyer, I'm sure you've heard songs like, you know, Beth and Detroit Rock City on the radio. So I got to ask, are you surprised that we're sitting here talking about? Can you believe it? Destroyer's 40 years old.
Oh yeah, I can. I mean, you know, they were heading on the way up in the 70s, and that's no surprise at all. I mean, it seems like every time I turn around, 10 years has gone by.
Yeah. It's just amazing. And now, of course, like I mentioned, you were the original singer in Frehley's Comet, and which was Ace's first thing he did after he left Kiss. Now I got to ask, did he talk much about Kiss, or were you guys so busy just promoting Frehley's Comet back then?
He didn't dwell on Kiss. I mean, there was things and points that he'd bring up that were probably relevant to conversations or business situations or funny stories, actually. But you know, he was really focused on getting Frehley's Comet going, as was John Regan, and you know, Ace and I split the vocals. He also sang lead, of course. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wasn't dwelling on Kiss at all. It just he wanted to make his own way, and he had the ability and the image and the talent and the drive to do as such, and that's what we pushed.
And now let me ask you, because again, this is kind of a secret, but has recently been released, like just a couple of years ago. Until recently, not a lot of people knew, like on Destroyer, on both Beth and Sweet Pain, it was not Ace Frehley that actually played the guitar parts. It was Alice Cooper's guitar player, Dick Wagner. I was curious if you ever knew that, if Ace ever shared that with you during the years that you've known him.
Oh no, he never told me anything about that. We really didn't talk in depth about, you know, some of the things that took place.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I've heard certain things here and there, but I never really took anything away from it, except for, you know, maybe it was a business move or a logistic move, or who knows. But you know, I never got into, for lack of better terms, the controversy or the
what was going on at the time.
Covert activities. Yeah. Like, well, you know, it must have happened for a reason. You know, on to the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you, Tod. You know, that being a musician yourself, as a guy that's been in the music industry, I mean, that's more of a common thing that we're finding out that, you know, a lot of times on your favorite rock albums, you'll find out that it wasn't actually the guy you thought was playing the guitar part, or they brought in somebody. Now, when you find stuff like that, does it bother you? You'd rather them keep it kind of quieter? What's your thoughts on doing that?
Well, you know, I think it really, for me, it's been years since I've had, you know, like my heroes come out. And back in that day, you know, they were playing their instruments.
Yeah.
Jeff Beck played Jeff Beck stuff.
Yeah.
Eddie Van Halen played Eddie Van Halen stuff. Steve Marriott from Humble Pie sang Steve Marriott. So there was nothing there that was, you know, had a facade or you know, an assembly from some sideman. I think that if anything, for like maybe in the last 20, 30 years, or even sooner, these fans nowadays, if they find out something about that, I think they get a little upset about it. So that's why they keep it kind of quiet. But as more side people are brought in to help out, the less you're going to hear about it. You know.
Yeah.
I could see how it would destroy somebody's enthusiasm to a degree, because you know, they want to see that band or that person play live and do it like that.
Yeah, and now let me ask you, Todd, in your own career, especially since you were in the days when you were in Frehley's Comet, and up until right here as we're talking in 2016, I know that you've attended like some Kiss conventions and stuff, so you must have experienced in your own career where just the fact that you have some kind of Kiss connection. I mean, how crazy the Kiss fans are that they want anything that's even remotely Kiss related.
What's a great thing? I think some of the best fans in the world are the Kiss fans. I can't lie. There's some people out there that really didn't want me to share any limelight or do anything that would, go on a parallel with Ace.
Yeah.
Or I never showed him up. I mean, I'm a singer. He's not a singer, but he can sing. But he's the icon. He's the dude. So it wasn't that type of issue. But there were a lot of great fans that were very receptive to me, and they couldn't wait to talk to me or get a signature or buy my solo stuff.
Yeah.
And it'd be a little 1 degree of separation from Ace.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the point I'm making here is because some people might also know that for a number of years you played keyboards with Cheap Trick, and so you are credited with that as well, which is quite the accomplishment. But it's just like I've been to several of these Kiss conventions. And it's just amazing. A lot, if they hear the name Tod Howarth, for example, oh, that's the guy who used to play with Ace. Oh, he's got a solo record out, or he's got this new band. Hey, let's check it out. And it just amazes me how Kiss fans are so loyal that way.
Oh yeah, well I've been amazed by that as well. I mean, that is one of the things I learned when I first started playing with Ace, and a lot of the fans that did accept me, they're still there today. I mean, some have grown and maybe we've gone to have families, or they don't have a lot of time to divert or to give to me or to whomever. But in general, a lot of the Kiss fans and Ace fans are very warm and receptive to me, and I've always said that wow, these fans are like the best fans in the world.
And now, share with us, Todd, as far as back as 1985, I know Ace started working with Richie Scarlett and some other John Regan early on, and some other guys that he was recording demos with. So, share with us, how exactly did you get the hook up with Ace and get the gig, Frehley's Comet? What year are we talking here?
That was it was '86 that I joined Frehley's Comet. In '85, I was on tour Cheap Trick,
wow,
and John Regan was playing with John Waite,
the
Babies.
Wow.
And we were on tour together, and I used to listen to their sound check and go, man, that's a solid band. It just sounds huge, because there's Frankie LaRocca playing drums, Arthur Stead playing keyboards, and I forget the guitar player, but he's a really good player. And then John Regan on bass. And I just walked up to John and said, I'm Tod Howarth, and I play with Cheap Trick and do the keyboards, and you guys are just, I love the way you sound. It's just phenomenal. Besides, John Waite is one of my favorite singers as well. Yeah.
That's amazing. And now, like when you first started working with the guys, did you go back and listen to some of these demos that they'd already recorded? What was the process like, or did you just start writing stuff with them?
Well, I told John, what I could do. I'm singer-songwriter, play guitar as well, and he said, I may have a project that you might be interested in. And so he we exchanged information, and I think he called me about, I'm not sure if it was 4 months later or half a year later, and said, this is what's going on. So he told me what it was, and so I said, well, great, yeah, I'd love to check it out. So they sent me a cassette, back in the day, a cassette of songs, and I listened to them, and then I transferred them to one of my little machines and tried to do some embellishments with the keyboards and a little bit of guitar, and sent the demo out with some of the songs that I've written. One of the songs was Something Moved on there.
Wow.
And so I ended up flying to New York on the way out to another Cheap Trick tour to audition, as it were. And I ended up doing that twice because I wasn't an avid lead player. I think Ace was he liked me and all that kind of stuff, but I think he wanted somebody that would swing some more lead. I mean, I could, but I wasn't really interested in being a lead guitar hero. But anyhow, by the second audition, it snapped and it went real well, and I departed Cheap Trick in December of '86 and jumped right in the studio, and they were already recording the record in just January of '87. I helped finish it up and added some songs.
Well, let me ask you now, but you mentioned the song Something Moved. I know early on, a couple years before that, you had a band called 707. Was that song a 707 song originally?
No, that 707 has other songs. I joined them in '81 through '83, and I wrote some songs for them, 2 or 3, I think. And we had 3 albums out. Actually, maybe I wrote more than that. But 2 albums out, 1 unreleased, and then that band fell apart financially, of course. All the stuff that I brought to Ace was brand new stuff that I would hope to do with a solo band or a local band or whatever I could walk into.
Wow. And now, talk a little bit about the other song I loved on the Frehley's Comet album was Calling to You. Is that another song you brought in, or did you write it?
Actually, you know what? You're right about that. That was called Megaforce for 707. I forgot about that too.
Wow.
I played it for Ace. Wanted to hear my back catalog when we first got together. So I played that song for him, and he was intrigued by the fact that it was called Megaforce, which was the name of his label, at that time.
Yeah.
And he said, we should redo this song. And I said, let's not, because I wanted to move on from 707. A little bit of a long story there.
Yeah.
He insisted, and so he changed up a couple lyrics here in the chorus, and we re-recorded it, and it became Calling to You.
Wow. Now, that's interesting. I'd heard that story a little bit before. Megaforce, obviously that was his record company at the time, but what specifically did you write the song about? I mean, how did you come up with the name
Megaforce?
Megaforce?
It was for a movie.
Oh, okay.
It was for a movie that was, it was kind of like a futuristic, well, not futuristic, but a modern-day war movie that was, flying dune buggies.
Oh, wow.
People that had guns on them and that type of thing, and Barry Bostwick was in it, and I forget this other up-and-coming star.
Oh, okay. Well, that tells us a little bit of history on the song. That's interesting. Right. And now, were you happy, to kind of have a limited role, being as a guitar player and a singer?
Well, for Ace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came into it knowing exactly what was asked of me and what I could do, and I was very happy because I could play guitar, keyboards, I could sing lead, write songs.
Yeah.
I was very thrilled. I'm not like a frontman lead singer, David Lee Roth type guy.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy that can play and sing. So I was extremely happy with that, and I thought we were going to have another couple CDs under our belt.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, Todd. Like when you first started being a musician, like if somebody was even to ask you today, like you said, you're kind of a singer out of necessity. Do you consider yourself like a guitar player first and then a singer?
Well, I've been singing the longest.
Yeah.
Then I played piano and I was singing, and then I picked up drums and bass and guitar. It's hard to say. I mean, it depends on who I'm playing for and what I'm doing, but I think that I probably revolve around more of a split between guitar player and singer now.
Yeah. Well, let me say, you've definitely got the chops, singing ability and everything. I mean, you're one of these guys that kind of do it all, and I think that's very smart thing to do. It makes it easier to get gigs. I mean, and even if you go in the studio and to record a solo album or something, you don't have to hire a whole bunch of you don't even have to hire a band. You can do it all yourself these days.
Yeah, I did actually. I've done 5 solo records, and I think on 4 of them I played everything myself.
Yeah. And now let me ask you, because I know a couple of years back you put out a single, I think it was called The Beach or something.
It's called Cold Beach.
Cold Beach, yeah. And you were at the time working on a solo album. Of course, now you got this other band. We're going to start talking a little bit about 4 by Fate. But have you put the solo career on hold for now?
Oh, yeah, because everything that I would probably write for the solo band, or for my solo stuff, would go most likely to 4x8, and it's far more of a priority than my solo stuff.
And so this project now, 4x8, I know it's got you and your old Frehley's Comet bandmate, John Reagan, for one. What's it like to be playing with John after all these years?
Oh, it's great. I mean, we rock. We play primarily the same way. We sit way in the backbeat and real solid. You know, I'm a very strong rhythm player, guitar-wise. And when we were playing together, it just locks, especially with the right drummer, it just locks in like crazy. So it's a blast. And
then I understand you got this guitar player named Sean Kelly that he's played with Helix and some other people. I think Lee Aaron, to name a few.
Well, yeah, that was the first guitar player that we had, and during the first 6 tracks that we recorded, he decided to bow out of the project because it wasn't quite what he was looking for.
Okay.
In short, I mean, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
We love him to death. He's still family, but I think it was a little heavy for him. He was looking to go a different direction.
I hear you. And then you originally had, I know, rest in peace, AJ Perro is your drummer. Talk a little bit about, hooking up with AJ, how you guys, crossed paths with him.
Well, we had Stet Howland was in the project first.
Oh, okay.
We did some shows with Stet Howland from Lost.
That's right.
Then we went to record the first 6 tracks, and unfortunately, Stet had an accident like a day before we go in the studio with his car.
That's right. I remember reading that.
We scrambled to get somebody, and luckily, fortunately, through Danny Stanton, our co-pilot for the band, he managed to ask Twisted Sisters drummer AJ Perro if he could fill in and do the next 6 tracks. Well, we scrambled and did that, and AJ learned I taught AJ the songs right there in the studio, and he pulled through like a trooper. I mean, we really just barely got through that, with the time frame that we had allotted, and he was looking to do something with us at that point in time once we got tracks done, and then unfortunately, just before we started recording the next 6 tracks, he passed away.
Now let me ask you, Todd. I hate to even go here, but at this point, going through the 2 drummers, one being an accident, one passing on, did you and John ever start to feel like, oh man, we're cursed, or this project's never going to get off?
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, I think more jokingly than real.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, this is just, we've hit so many walls and obstacles with this project that we've just, or I came up with the name for the album because we're just relentless. We're not letting go until we just exhausted all possibilities. And I'm not 20 years old anymore.
Yeah.
So it gets a little hard to do, but we're still hard-headed and we're still at it.
Well, I think the title "Relentless" it's really fitting. The fact that you guys have been through all this, and I think that's going to make this release that much sweeter when the fans finally get a copy of it in there. So. Now, so we've had you and John from the beginning, and we've gone through these other changes. So you got Rob Afuso, I understand, the original drummer from Skid Row, working with you guys now. I mean, who's the guitar player?
I'm sorry?
Who's the guitar player you have right now?
The new guitar player is Pat Gasparini. He wrote a song in the first 6 called "Follow Me," and it's a great tune. And so once Sean left, we decided, John and I talked, and we should get Pat in because he's a great player, great songwriter, a good team player as well. And so he just blended right in. And
so do you have AJ and Stead as far as the drum tracks? They're the drummers that are on the album.
Well, Stead didn't play songs on the album.
On AJ, you said past. That's right.
We give him a mention, of course.
Yeah.
Part of the 4x8 startup.
Yeah. And so Rob, how long has he been with you guys actually?
Rob, he did the 6th. Well, let's see, we recorded the second 6 earlier this year, about I guess 6 months ago. Or no, actually, I don't even remember. It's all more like maybe 10 months ago.
Wow.
Finally, I can't. The time frame is getting a little lost on me. But yeah, he took up slack back then, and then he entertained the idea of doing the project, and he's still with us.
Well, I think he's a great fit for the band. Now let me ask you. You guys had enough material like to just put together a great set list from all your crews. I understand a big part of what Forward by Fate's doing when you guys do a live show, that you might throw in like a Peter Frampton song, a Frehley's Comet, maybe some Cheap Trick or stuff, but you guys, even Skid Row throughout all your guys' career. But let me ask you, with that being said, why was it so important to you guys to put out new music as well, which I think is a great idea?
Well, I think that it gives us a little bit of life.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to... No, there's no way we're going to ride on the coattails of all the bands we played with.
Yeah, that's
because,
great.
It's a nice novelty thing.
Yeah.
But if people want to hear those songs, they go hear the real band.
Yeah.
If they're still around. But we thought it'd be kind of fun to throw in, little bits and pieces from our past, and then incorporate perhaps new songs.
Oh, okay. And so, let me ask you: was everybody involved with the songwriting, or like, did you and John write the bulk of the stuff?
Well, actually, I wrote the bulk of the stuff, the first 6 songs, and then, or actually 5 songs, and Pat wrote 1, and then the second half we did 2 covers, and then Pat wrote, 1, 2, 3 songs, and I put in 2 or 3. I think I lost count at this point.
Yeah.
We kind of go for whatever the good song is.
Yeah, there you go.
And we assembled it fairly quickly. We didn't have a lot of catalog of new tunes to put up in consideration, but we got to the point where, hey, these should be solid enough. Let's record these. And
can you tell us like how many tracks we're going to get on the album?
There'll be actually 12, and there's a bonus track of one of them in a different kind of mix.
Okay, and then
13.
Can you tell us what the 2 cover songs are?
Yeah, one of them is a song by John Waite, written by Desmond Child and John Waite. It's called "These Times Are Hard for Lovers."
Okay, that's cool.
And it's something that John wanted to do, and we did it, and we pulled it off. And then the other song, I've been wanting to do this one for years. I had this arrangement for Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo by Rick Derringer.
Oh wow! I could see you doing that, especially I think you'd have a voice to do that. That's
it was fun.
Yeah, it's something I'm going to really dig checking out. Checking out when the album comes out.
It was a lot of fun.
Wow! And so so like, let me ask you, like, when you do a John Waite tune or even other song, do you like? Do you try to do it the original way, like note for note, the way the original artist did it, or do you like to kind of put the Tod Howarth spin on it?
Well, the thing is that John Waite's really bluesy, and I come from a really bluesy background of my roots, and I don't really sing overly bluesy on my stuff, but I do incorporate it here and there, but I pretty much sang the way John Waite sang it. I'm not going to say it was good because the guy's just brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
But I sang it pretty close to the way he sang it because it fits. It's kind of like my style as well. Wow,
that's cool. Now, what are you guys' plans as far as promoting the album? Are you going to set up a tour, or does it kind of depend on how the album sells?
Well, touring is an optimistic thing at this point. I think we're looking at more like fly-in, fly-out shows, maybe some festivals, some one-offs until we get some momentum with either airplay or the album. It's really difficult nowadays. We're happy to get out there and do some spot shows and see if we have any viability. It's to be realistic about it. We'll see if we can go forward on the momentum that based on what we recorded and what we can come across to with the fans.
And again, I think you made the point earlier about the fact that you guys are releasing some new music that gives this project a little more validity, and I agree with that. Now, let me ask you: when it comes time to like put together a set list, how much of a new album are you going to be playing live? Versus stuff through your guys' career.
Well, I think the last time we did some stuff, I can't remember how many tunes it was. I think it may have been 4 brand new tunes. Because see, we had recorded it and then we mixed it. And then we came home and then we had this AJ Perro tribute thing with Twisted Sister. I think they came up within 2 weeks, so we had to I mean, kind of like learn the stuff.
Yeah.
Record it, and then we're not used to playing it, and I think we played about four. I don't remember, maybe 4 or 5 tunes off the new record, plus the other stuff that we had. And it's kind of for lack of better terms, it's kind of like a thing of convenience at that point.
Yeah.
And once we get to a section here where we'll do some more shows, some more thought will probably go into it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And now let me ask you, Todd, another thing, because you put out a lot of solo albums, like you said, 5 solo albums over the years, and since leaving Frehley's Comet, you haven't really toured much live. So how excited are you to get back, to live performing?
I like it on stage. I have a lot of fun. I'm a different kind of entertainer. I don't have to be on stage. I don't have to be the spotlight.
Yeah.
I'm an ego hog. I could care less. The only thing that's real fun for me is to make the fans happy. The ones that want to hear the material, hear me sing, maybe sing some old stuff and the new stuff, and if they enjoy it, then I'm there. I'm excited about that. When I was younger, in 23, when I first did my first record, I was really excited to be on stage because, that's it. I'm here. It's a great thing. But and I still enjoy it, but it doesn't have the
excitement
impact because I know the reality of you're here today and gone later today.
Yeah, I guess the point I'm making here is people know who you are. To me, this is a great kind of comeback story if you guys get any kind of momentum because, like I said, you've been away from it's been years since you were ever even in Frehley's Comet, but you've kept it going musically. You kept putting out new music, but you haven't necessarily been out there live. And so this is this will be a great chance too to maybe throw in a couple of those Tod Howarth solo tunes, have perform them live. If people have never got a chance to hear you perform live, and so just because you haven't been performing live all these years, you've still been keeping yourself out there, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah, thank you. I think that the only way that would happen is I've got an idea about re-recording one of the songs I did on one of my first solo CDs. It's really catchy, and as a matter of fact, Gene Simmons loved the song. That's another long story, but I think that if we re-record any of my songs, then we would play it because who's to say? I really don't know, but I wouldn't force the issue on the guys because it's a band. It's all 4 of us, and we all make the decision what we want to do. I'm not going to come up and say, okay, well, this is a song we're doing because I sang this on my solo stuff. It doesn't quite work that way, and I would never even think about strong-arming anybody like that.
No, okay. And let me ask you, correct me if I'm wrong, because you can't always believe everything you read on the internet, but I remember over the years reading something about at one point Gene Simmons had tried to sign you to his record label. Is there any truth to that?
Oh, yeah, I did get signed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got my band Hardware got signed to Simmons Records in, I think it was 91 or 90. No, I think it was maybe 90. And we were doing some showcasing for the distributor label, and I don't remember if it was Warner or not.
Yeah.
And we were being considered, and all of a sudden, everything fell through because Nirvana came out, and everybody went running the opposite direction.
Okay. And I just want to touch on this a little because I've talked to you about it in the past, but I don't. I want to also say that in regards to the second Frehley's Comet album, Second Sighting, it seems like it doesn't seem like it's a fact that you took a lot of heat for the fact that it didn't sell as well as the first album. Now, question I want to ask regarding that is, I've read a lot of stuff at the time. They were trying to sell Frehley's Comet as not really Ace Frehley's solo act, but as a band. Was that Ace's decision, the labels, or the management's decision as far as trying to, no, this is a full-fledged band?
Well, that was primarily Ace's decision. I think. I mean, his name is already on there, and a lot of venues want to call it Ace Frehley's Comet, which is fine. He wanted to push it as a band, but he was the guy making the headway, and I think that after Second Sighting, that's when things got a little bit like maybe they wanted to push it a little bit more towards Ace.
Yeah.
And that's when
because again, I really don't want to get into this because we've discussed it before. But the point I want to, the reason I am bringing it up, and the point I want to make here is, well, you've taken a lot of the heat over the years for the fact that albums sell. I want to also make a point. I think you should be also credited with saving the album in the sense that, you know, things you've told me before and things I've read online and other people have said, the fact that the reason Second Sighting was so heavy with Tod Howarth songs was the fact that, you know, Ace wasn't in the best condition. He didn't want to sing a lot at the time, and so you kind of came in and they said, "Okay, Todd, we need you to sing these songs." And at the time, they were trying to sell it as, you know, not an Ace Frehley solo, but as a band. And see, what people are missing, I think, those are great songs still. You know, people have said, "Oh, it would have been a great Tod Howarth solo album," but it's a great album. Maybe it's not a great. I think the way they were packaging it at the time, because even if you go back to a 1987 album, you know, the album's called Frehley's Comet, but then it's Ace Frehley. And on the second album, they're selling it as Frehley's Comet. So I think, you know, even in their packaging, there's a little confusion. And the next point I want to bring up is, you know, so that was your end with Frehley's Comet. So were you surprised that, you know, Ace would release one more album and then he wasn't heard from again for, you know, 20 years?
No, not at all.
Yeah. And you know, and his last couple albums have been pretty good. I mean, he's made somewhat of a pretty good comeback, I think.
Yeah, he's doing well because the fans want to hear him, and that's the way it should be. He should be able to produce something if the fans, you know, demand it. For Second Sighting, you know, Ace wasn't in the best of health at that time, but that wasn't the main component. The main component was he didn't have any songs really written.
Yeah.
And we were scheduled to go in, and I said, well, I have all these tunes, and so everybody listened to them and said, okay, well, let's go with them. And the idea was for us to split the vocals. It just so happened that we kind of split them like right down the middle.
Yeah.
I don't know if he really wanted to do that either. I mean, he did, ultimately, but I think that, you know, and that's what happened is it had nothing to do with me forcing the issue.
No. Like I said, I want to make that point because a lot of people think, oh, you know, this is a Tod Howarth solo, so to speak. But I really think people need to know that. I really think people need to know that you really saved the album, because if it would not have been for you, none of those tracks may have even gotten cut.
Well, what would have saved it if they would have released It's Over Now. They did release it as a single, but they didn't put any money behind it.
Yeah.
That could have helped us out a lot, but you know, for some reason it just wasn't in the cards, and it was somewhat devastating. And you know, I had high hopes for us for the third record, but you know, I never was on it, and that's something that Don and Ace put together.
And let me ask you, Todd, because again, you know, there was a 20-year period after that when there was no new Ace Frehley music for about 20 years, and a lot of all those albums were out of print. How do you feel about the fact that I think it's great that these albums are all available to fans; they can get their hands on them. But how do you feel like, you know, a couple years ago, for example, Second Sighting, they re-released it, they remastered it. Are you a fan of labels doing that?
Well, I had no control over it.
No,
you know, whatever the Ace or the people that own the masters for that want to do, that's their prerogative. I think it's good from the aspect of getting it back out to the fans in a new package or new you know, mastering, so they can hear it and have the novelty of it. I was not against it, and even if I was, it wouldn't do any good. And
then I know you for several years now have lived in San Diego. Ace lives there. Do you ever occasionally bump into the guy, or do you guys like go?
Nope.
Wow.
No, it was. I saw him once. Well, I think about 3 years ago at a book signing up north of San Diego on Oceanside, and we talked briefly, but we didn't have a chance to talk about anything.
Yeah.
And you know, I gave my current information and all that, and he was going to call me after the holidays, and I never heard a beep.
Now, let me ask you, Todd. I remember around 1990, after you had left his band, I think it was down in San Diego that you'd actually gone to one of his shows and appeared on stage with him. What was that like?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. It was at the Bacchanal, which is a club that's no longer there. I came to see him and John, and I went up and sang Breakout and had a lot of fun. You know, it was a kick. But and I'm supposed to meet up with them afterwards. But
and that's another thing I want to ask you about. Speaking of the song "Breakout," I know that was a song that he'd written with Eric Carr back in the day. I got to ask, did you ever get a chance to meet Eric, or do you have anything that you could share with the recording of "Breakout"?
No, I don't. I met Eric when I was with Chief Trick. We were in the studio in Rockford, Illinois, where they lived, and Kiss came through. We all went down to see Kiss, and that's, of course, I knew Gene. I've known Gene since '79.
Wow.
And or 1980, and then 1979, I think. And then anyhow, that's when I met Eric. But that was my first and last interaction with him.
Well, I didn't realize that. So, how did you first hook up with Gene back in 1979?
I was playing with a band that had a manager that somehow got in contact with his girlfriend at the time, Diana Ross.
Wow, how amazing. I mean, everything's really come full circle. I mean, you meet the Kiss leader and bass player back in the day, and he eventually signs you, and you also hook up with Ace, and you're doing 4x8. And the very last thing I want to touch base on is, could you share with us how you guys name the band 4x8?
Well, we didn't. We okayed it. We had some other ideas, but our co-pilot, Danny Stanton, he was the one that suggested the name among others, and we pretty much stuck with. We thought 4x8 would work. Actually, I think I was the only holdout that said it should be something else, but it turned out to be 4x8, and I think that was his idea. And
before we wrap this up, I got to ask you, Todd. Now, could you give us some details on the album? Because is it initially being only made available in Europe, or is it going to be available everywhere?
Oh yeah, well, the European version comes out. I'm getting all these dates.
Yeah.
But in the next month and a half, I think, or so, or next month, and the U.S. version is coming out, I believe, top of May.
Okay, and now, will people actually be able to get physical CDs, or you? Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yep.
And so, what was recording like of the 4x8 album? I mean, were you guys actually in the studio together? Did everybody kind of send in their parts?
Well, John and I, and John, AJ, and me were in the studio together doing these first 6 tracks.
Uh-huh.
Sean Kelly had sent his in from Canada, and that's when he heard the tracks. That's when he decided, wow, this is kind of heavy. I'm not sure I want to go that heavy.
Oh, okay.
So he opted out. But the next 6 was Pat had joined the project, so Pat was there, but we still tracked pretty much 3-piece. But then Rob and John and I tracked, and I think we actually tracked with Pat on his songs. We tracked 4-piece, but yeah, it was a process of trying to get the livest feel, the natural feel about it, with the time frame that we had, and the learning curve for both AJ and Rob had to be ultra quick.
Wow! Wow! That's great, and I want to thank you so much, Todd, for being part of this Destroyer 40 special. It's been great talking to you, and please let me know in the future if I can help you further promote the album. Is there anything else you'd like to say to all the fans out there listening to this tonight?
I just want to tell them thank you so much for hanging with us. Again, the Kiss fans are amazing. They always are very cordial and very dedicated and hanging out and listening for whatever news that comes out. I don't expect them to like everything, but it is nice to give it a shot and give it a listen. And we can't wait to get out there and show you what we have. Thank you so much.
Well, we really look forward to hearing that new album once it drops. And the very last thing I do want to ask you is, does the fact if how well the first album does depend if we're going to get a second album?
The second one is already written, and it's contractually we own the second one. So
I love that. So at least we'll be getting one more.
Yeah. Well, barring any disasters, but
yeah.
there'll be another one coming.
Well, okay, thanks so much, Todd, and best of luck to you and the guys with the new album, and we're here to support you in any way we can help you, but thanks so much for being part of the Destroyer 40. You've been a big part of it, so thanks so much.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay, bye-bye.